Greg. So I'm going to talk about building a hopefully scalable mail solution using various open source tools. We use LDAP for our backend. I'm using XM as the mail transfer agent, that's the CMail equivalent, and I use Cyrus for the IMAP opt-ins. When trying to make a scalable mail server, there's several problems that you run into. First of all, if you're hosting virtual domains, you don't really want to give everyone who has a mail account a Unix account as well. So you want to try and separate the authentication off from the Unix system and onto another external sort of authentication system. There's several ways you can do that. You could just use an external file, a flat file, or a DB3 type database. You can use an SQL database, or you can use an LDAP database as well. You also have the other issue as well. If you want to make it really large, you need lots of, if you've got sort of lots of thousands of users, then you want to have several servers that can do the authentication, so you can have sort of failover, reliability, distributed between multiple backends. And then again, it's where an SQL or an LDAP server is quite useful. LDAP natively supports replication, so that you can replicate between backends, and this is a good thing for our purposes. There's less worry about synchronization. So that's why we use LDAP. As well as not relying on the system accounts, you have to have a mail system that doesn't natively look in there. It has to be able to support looking up the authentication, looking up user information out of your external authentication system as well. XM supports this really well. Most other MTAs such as CMail or Postfix do support it, but I haven't found them anywhere near as configurable as XM is. Cyrus, we can tell to look at a different authentication mechanism, either through patches to the Cyrus system itself, or by going to by using PAM. Anyone know what PAM is here? Pluggable authentication modules. So basically, you can give a whole host of backends or a whole host of systems to look at, and it just makes your program looks against PAM, and then PAM looks against whatever else. So it makes it nice and easy. So with all of these tools, we can set up a fairly robust system using LDAP and XM and Cyrus. I don't need to draw a diagram. Oh, you want diagrams?
Pictures.
Okay, I will draw. LDAP is a tree system. It's not. SQL databases use tables. LDAP is a sort of tree hierarchy. And so within your tree you have like your top level domain, which is called your base DN. DN stands for distinguished name. So for example, at work we have where DC stands for domain component. So our base DN is DC equals BSD, DC equals code, DC equals NZ. We can have whatever we like really, that just makes it useful. The way I've set this system up, and there are plenty of ways of doing it, and indeed CMail and Postfix expect you to do it their way, which is rather different to how I've set it up, whereas XM I could do it however I liked, so I did it my way, and then later on found that it'd be hard converting back to CMail. Under our base DN I have two major trees. I have an accounts tree, which is the list of people who sort of own domains. This is really targeted at a virtual mail system. So if Perry comes to me and says I want to host a virtual domain with him, I'll give him an account, and his information goes under there, and that he can use that as an authentication backend to administer his domains, add users, and so on. Under the domains, I just have a list of all the domains we have. So we'll put BSD in there. Sorry? I know we don't have this one, but it works, so I can just do wlog.co.nz, I suppose. And then under each of these I have another tree as well, which we use for aliases and mailboxes. And then under each of these we just have lists of all the aliases and lists of all the mailboxes. One of the big issues you have when you host multiple domains on one site is that of the namespace. If we were to have two users called Daniel, they're different users, we have Daniel at BSD and Daniel at WLO. Under traditional mail methods, they'd both resolve to the same name, because the mail server would say, or the MTA, like sendmail, would go, I can accept mail for the last part. The first part is a local user Daniel, I'll give it to him. The way sendmail gets around this is quite nasty. It has a virtual user table lookup, and use that combined with aliases, and it gets pretty messy. We just store the mapping straight in our LDAP tree. So looking here, this is the tree. Oh, it's a tree. Probably can't see that very well. So what I have in there is I have a list of attributes. I have a common name, which is just what's the common name? It's just Daniel.
See it as Daniel, yep.
Yeah. I have a user ID, which is the actual mail address. This is what everything will authenticate against. This is what Cyrus looks at when you log in, and this is what the mailbox that gets delivered to. And the way I do it, and again there's many ways of doing this, but I munch the username up a bit by appending the mailbox or the domain name to it.
Is this a unique?
Sorry?
Is this your the unique of the entire LDAP tree?
Yes, it will be. It's unique for the system.
Is it a mandatory requirement?
No. If you're only hosting one domain on the server, there's no need to munge it. You don't have to pick UIDs like that. You could do what Extra do and just assign you some part of your name and a random set of digits, or just a random name, or your login name and a number of digits after that.
Yeah, but the UID must be unique.
If you want mail to work, yes.
Right.
If you have two the same.
If you have two the same, they just both end up in the same place.
Right, so it doesn't consider the hierarchy. It's that.
PAN doesn't know.
Right.
Just what matters. That's the username you log in with when you set up your mail account, which is why it must be unique. And I have a couple other things for sending forwards.
Oh no.
Sorry?
Oh no.
Okay. So in this case, the owner would be password, of course. In this case is and that just says that I'm the owner of that email account, which means I have permission to change the password or change other attributes. So that's what a mailbox looks like. For an alias, it's fairly similar. We don't worry about password, and we just have a common name and a mail forwarding address, I think it's called. Something similar to that anyway.
No.
There's Leo. And all that does is that when we get the mail in, we look up in the tree, and first of all we check for aliases. We do an alias expansion, and we look in the aliases tree of the domain that it's targeted for, and we see if there's a common name that matches the local part of the address, and if there is, then we grab the mail forwarding address and replace it. If it's not an alias, then we look in the mailboxes and do the same thing. If we match on a common name, we then return the UID and then continue delivering it. That's basically how it works. With LDAP servers, as I said, you can have multiple LDAP servers. Cyrus has a project that I was going to look at last night, but the Cyrus website was down. called, it's the murder project. You have a murder of LDAP servers. It's an interesting term, like a murder of crows, I guess. But so you can have multiple LDAP servers, each being authenticated out of multiple LDAP servers, and multiple MTAs in the background as well. So this is how you get your very large scalable mail server. You can run it on cheap hardware and just have 10 boxes instead of one big box on a system that's liable to fall over because it's archaic. I don't know, I said no. As a test,
While he's getting his password, we might just turn around and get some shots of the audience. Password very long, we can all look refreshing.
that's so you can't really see it in that tree there, but we have two domains configured. We've got one called sendmail.meta.net.nz and another one called otherdomain.meta.net.nz. Other domain just has one alias. Oh, that's the other thing. We can have an alias which is a catch-all for a domain. It just has the special syntax that the alias, the CN, is at symbol and then domain name. So if we had that and then this has the effect of if anything that hasn't matched previously in any of the other rules comes through, we then check to see if there's a domain catch-all like that, and then we direct it to that mailbox. And that forwarding address there then undergoes the whole lot of expansion again. So I could bounce the Daniel at BSD one back to my home address or somewhere else, and it would keep just going through until it finally found an address that would either send off-site or deliver locally.
Is there any reason that you've managed the UID with underscores instead of using X and dots?
Versions of Cyrus before 2016 didn't support dots in the username. That's the only reason. The new versions do. 2016 and the 2.1 series both support dots in the username. I could put an @ as well, but that gets tricky because you have to really mess with your MTA to stop it thinking, oh, I'll just expand this out again. CMail just does it straight off. It just maps it straight out and straight off, gets you really mess with it. And if any of you have played with CMail rewrite rules, you'll know it's not a task to be approached lightly.
So can you have multiple addresses in the UID or the forwards? So create a mailing list?
You can have multiple mail forwarding addresses. So you create an alias with multiple destinations, and that would it basically works the same way as your etc aliases file does. That also supports pipes, so you can pipe it to a program. It's basically just the same functionality as your alias as well.
What is the program running?
Depends on your system set up. Under XM you can specify the use of pipe commands to run as.
Right, so
otherwise it'll run.
User.
Yeah.
Obviously because it's only next account for email instead of
In general, if you've got virtual accounts, it's bad to allow users to run pipe commands because they don't have a home directory. You're not trusting them to start with, so why give them that privilege?
CMail won't let you run programs that the administrators said you're allowed to run anyway. You only run programs that are VPC, SMA, so.
So I'm just going to send mail to Daniel at sendmail.meta.net.nz. And this is just the XM log. It said it got a message from root and it delivered it to that munged address, which is the standard munging we're doing. So nothing surprising there. Got another address in here. Just do another account called test, send one to that. Again, the same thing happens. The other domain I've just got a single alias in the domain, and it's a global catch-all. So I'll send that to foo at other domain. And again, that just got sent to Daniel at CMail. It doesn't exactly show you what's happening there. If we run X in its testing mode, so this will just tell me where the mail will be delivered to. It goes through and tells you the rules it's matching on, and it says it's sending it out to Daniel. So it's got the whole munged address there, and then it's got at CMail, and it just knows that that's local, so it just accepts it. This is why we have problems with putting ats in it. We have to really modify its behaviour to get that to work nicely. So if I send it to, again, it's matching on. So it finds filled other domain, which then gets redirected to Daniel at CMail, which then goes to this local address here. Okay, that's my 20-minute introduction to large mail servers. Any other questions?
What about the Cyrus side of it?
Cyrus side of it. Ah, yes. Cyrus is a pain. Red Hat doesn't support it anymore. Debian support an old version. If you want the good stuff, you have to go and get a non-vendor supplied RPM package. Actually on this machine I have running the latest version because I found RPMs that work, and it seems to be running fine, does everything I want. The only issue is it is a development release. All of that said, they are running it at Carnegie Mellon University, which is quite a large university in the States. They've got in the order of several tens of thousands of people using the system, and they're using the same software that's running on that, so I guess it's stable. they'd fix it pretty quickly, but it wasn't.
Must be right.
What about UWINAP or something else? How,
you can use UWINAP. There are problems with it. It's a bit hard to configure in terms of UIDs because it expects to be able to write with the user permission and stuff. You can get around that quite easily. One of the bigger issues that we like Cyrus for is that UWINAP is an inbox style system. That is, you just have one file which contains your entire mails full, and if you want to create IMAP mailboxes under that, they have to go in your home directory. And if you don't have a home directory because you're in a virtual mail system, this proves problematic. UWINAP also has a history of poor security, although I believe it's probably been ironed out now.
No, there's another huge flaw.
There was another reason? Oh dear. University of what security?
Yes.
Or Washington. Cyrus, however, supports a different format called MailDAP, which there's a directory for each mailbox, and each message has its own file, and it has a couple of caches and an index file. So it's a lot faster. Instead of having to seek through a big file, if you've got 1,000 messages in it, you don't have to seek through the entire file. You can just look at each one at the top. So it's quite a bit faster. Again, for the needs of this box, it's probably not a huge issue, but if you've got 10,000 users, it's a nice idea. Cyrus, the big problem with Cyrus though is that it doesn't automatically create user mailboxes. With UWINAP, it just writes to a file so it can create it as it goes. With Cyrus, you have to use another program called CyRADN.
Really nice web interface.
Yeah. So within that, you can just create a mailbox, and the trick is it has to be of the form user and then whatever the name is. Traditionally, it's user dot because Cyrus uses dots as its delimiter between mailboxes. I've got the setting on which lets me use slashes for delimiters, so I could have dots in these usernames, but I just haven't. No real reason.
Which setting?
Unix hierarchy. Only available on 2016 or later.
Does that make any difference other than to the way you like to use it? Does it actually change how it stores anything?
Version.
Subtract subdirectory, these dots to make lots of one subdirectory.
No, it does convert it to subdirectories.
Yeah, I thought
That anyway. So in practice, no.
just a preference.
Yeah. I think if we
Any old namespace when you can have dots that are using on there.
so I can create a mailbox like that, and then if I do a listing on it, oh, it has actually displayed it. The docs say it actually converts dots to a caret instead internally.
So is Neil.
Hard to say.
That's very, very cool.
Well, poor taste. So, I mean, however, that's an issue, but if you have a nice system set up where you have scripts managing everything for you, then you don't have to worry about it because this is callable from Perl. You just make your Perl script, create the mailbox as you create the account. With that in mind, just to aid me in creating domains and stuff, I've got some scripts here. Create account just creates the user account, the domain owner account, and then scripts to create domains, create mailboxes, create aliases, set passwords on the mailboxes. They're all just fairly simple Perl scripts.
Can you control what user can administer which domain?
Through the web interface you can.
That's what this owner is all about.
Not easily at the shell level. Again, we don't really want to give people shell access to the box. So if we can write a web interface for it, which we can because there's plenty of support for LDAP and Cyrus and within PHP.
Are there other front ends?
Sorry?
Are there other front ends?
How do you mean?
There's web interface for administering it, or how else
GQ.
do you administer it?
GQ, it's a program over here. So they can actually log into that with their username and password, and all they have access to is write whatever domains they own. GQ isn't the nicest interface to use because you actually have to know a little bit about LDAP before it makes any sense.
It likes to crash too.
Yeah. It can be cranked up a bit. There are other projects which are working on directory administrators for LDAP, but they're really focused towards straight user accounts. So they make you set passwords, home accounts, and home directories and shells and stuff.
There's web shells too.
Yeah.
There's also a hack, which one of the NetWare guys we deal with is he's written a modification to NetWare's console 1, and it'll let it work without an LDAP, so I'm trying to talk in a bigger to at the moment.
Nice.
When I get it, you'll be the first one to see that.
Alright. Yeah, so I run this sort of system at home. It's a bit silly, I have 1 or 2 users on the system, but I really run it at home just for testing.
It's got tens of thousands.
Yeah, well, not on my hardware equipment.
This cat is $3.
We Perry and I have a server that we run, and we host on a few people's domains. We run it on that, and it works reasonably well. Any problem using it, Kyle?
Only when that mail address, the mail alias,
Oh yeah.
munged a bit.
And
When
apart from
someone's changing passwords or something.
oh yeah, sorry.
I lost my
Every time I
mail.
work on the mail scripts, Daniel goes and changes the LDAP schema on me again.
So he just gets the web front end up and running, and I change how it all works. So he
Can
just
you show us
changes.
the running?
I don't have it installed, and we don't have an internet connection.
Phil can show you on his iPad.
If you want a crowd run a screen that big, sure.
When would you use a SQL database or another database?
Well, you could just as easily use it. LDAP's nice, nicer than SQL in some respects. It's more read oriented, whereas SQL is optimised for read and writes. And this sort of data store, there's very little writing going on. You're mostly reading information out of it. It's just the way the actual programs are structured. LDAP works a bit better. Also with LDAP, you can add in different object classes, and then you can point your mail client at it and use it as an address book. And if you've got a big domain in there, it just automatically populates all the addresses in the Yankee address book.
At work, we ran this, and I've just told Mozilla said, do you have an LDAP server? It's like, actually I do. It's over here. Goes, okay. Type in an email address, it says, oh look, these are the ones that have LDAP. It just gives you all the information about it.
How easy is it to replicate it across multiple?
Well, that you basically say, oh, replicate.
Yeah. I've not done replication yet.
I have. You run Slurpee on whatever box you want, point it to your thing,
Yeah.
and you go.
OpenLDAP at the moment only does single master multiple slave replication, I think, which isn't the nicest. If you make changes, you have to make them to a central one, and then it gets replicated out to the other ones. But that's fine. If you want to make change, like in a system where you have multiple LDAP servers, you just have one official LDAP server that you use when you're making changes through your web front end or whatever, and it replicates out to the ones that all your MTAs and your OMAP daemons and other programs use.
So
it's not-
the development version that we can multi-master at the moment anyway.
Okay.
And partitioning too, so each master can be master of a single block.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why I started working on this was as an alternative to Exchange. Mainly because I was partly sick of having to put up with how Exchange did things. Actually, mainly I was sick of Exchange crashing every month and requiring a full system restart. I gather that doesn't happen all the time, but if you can do something with Linux and for very little cost, then why pay for client access licenses for Exchange? About the only thing we're missing from this, I feel, is Exchange's calendaring support. And I was going to give a demo of that working with the system,
But I
but
suck.
yeah. A company called Binary have a proprietary plugin for Outlook that you can use that will actually let it use Cyrus mailboxes basically as calendaring, so it's all fairly transparent.
And public folders as well.
Yeah.
You can do anything you can do with Exchange.
Yeah.
Public stuff.
So it just feels as though you're using Exchange even though you're running off Cyrus in the back end.
How much is it?
$29.95 US per license.
How much is Exchange license?
16
billion.
Yeah.
No, it's actually
There's
no.
a per user cost.
Yeah, seriously, the Exchange client access license is actually cheaper.
But you have to have a Win2K or whatever.
That's
one of
right.
those
Yeah,
lights as well.
Cal, you need your server, you need everything else on top of it. So I think it's quite reasonable. And that's only assuming you want to run Outlook.
Change it from 33 servers.
So there isn't much in the way of open source calendaring solutions yet that I've seen. There's iCal. I don't know how well it integrates with any servers though. Yeah. All the PHPs like their Outlook though.
Yeah,
No,
it's
they
really hard
like-
to convince people to run a new client frankly.
Um,
Yeah, no. I don't want to do it.
Got into Evolution's calendar and that bunch, but it's got it there, but I haven't played around with any sort of LDAP support or anything.
You know what protocol it uses? Does it use the iCal protocol or is it its own one?
God, I don't know.
It does use iCal.
I start the program and I read my email. And it was not Windows based.
Start and get a cup of coffee and then jump in.
So Microsoft Exchange server.
Yeah. But as far as I know, there's such thing as an iCal server.
Anyone got another question?
With your, that's, the first thing you've got written up there is a mailbox entry from the CN equals Daniel down.
Yeah.
So now, when you say owner common name equals Daniel Lawson, is that an index into your accounts, or is that just your name which you've entered arbitrarily?
The account.
With,
Yes, your answer is yes, basically.
with this, it already right to left.
Sorry?
So this already right to left, this dot would be your base key, bsd.co.nz. OU equals accounts, is that. Then CN equals Daniel Lawson, so
So there'll be an account called Daniel Lawson.
there's a Daniel Lawson there with the CN equals Daniel Lawson. CN is the
Are
file
you
name.
in front of the account? Sorry? Are you equals in front of the
Yeah, can you explain the OU and the O?
Okay.
organizational units?
OU is just organisational unit. O.
Organisation.
I forget what it stands for. It was something that was appropriate. Organisation. Yeah. LDAP stems from X500, X400,
exposed.
Yeah, it's got a lot of object classes. An object class is a group of attributes you can have. So there's an object class for a POSIX account, which is a standard Unix account. So it has things that are useful to that: password, username, user ID, group ID, home directory, shell.
Kickoff.
Yeah, GCROS, standard user information. Any other ones, there's Kerberos information, so you Kerberos around the password. There's a shadow account which has shadow password and other things to do with that. There's a Sandra account, so you can run your Sandra out of it. I gave a short talk last year on getting Sandra and how that worked nicely. And if there isn't an object class defined for what you need, you can make an object class quite easily. It's just a simple text file. That's actually what we've done. These mailboxes account, they have an object class of Vmail mailbox, and this one's Vmail alias for the alias, and I've just defined them and said that they have to have a common name, a user ID, an owner and a password, and they can optionally have a mail forwarding address or whatever the field is called.
They can optionally have any number of mail forwarding addresses.
Yeah. That's all specified within the schema. Schemas do look a bit like Greek when you first start them, but after you make one, actually they're quite easy. Sorry, what was that question? Sorry?
EBNF.
Yeah, pretty well.
Okay, I've got a Cyrus mail sport home, and how do we convert to something like this? I assume that I've got my
Which version of Cyrus running? Not that it really matters, but okay. All you'd have to do is set up the LDAP tree, configure PAM to look at LDAP for IMAP and POP authentication. You can have it just on that. We can have your entire system running off LDAP. Only problem with that is if the LDAP daemon goes away or doesn't start in boot, you may have problems. Hopefully root can get in. And you also have to set up your MTA to do all the correct lookups.
the most pressing thing was getting all the messages converted over. So is that, if anything, just a case of renaming all hierarchy and dumping it in the right place?
No problem.
Yeah, basically.
If you want to, you can actually change this UID to be whatever your mailbox is currently. Things will just work. So we've got a couple of them that have actually created special names that aren't managed. It just works.
That does depend on what version you do. If you go from 1.5,
Oh, he can. I'm saying he can leave his username the same.
yeah.
Speaking
it's
of
only if you want to have multiple different Craigs.
Speaking of usernames, if the user is logging into the IMAP server with daniel@meta.net.nz, how is Cyrus translating? Is that
At the moment, when I log in, or when people log into this virtual mail setup, they log in with the username in this format.
so? I'm going to my webmail and I'm typing an __.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's.
Is that the pressing? Is
Slightly
that the
annoying.
reason for you to change it to support ats and dots?
Yeah, because
Well, not necessarily, because you can translate that
yeah.
on a web front end.
I can do that as well.
For example,
Yeah.
But you can do it now with Unix hierarchy, can't you?
Yes, with Unix hierarchy, and yeah, I can do it. I just have to get around the issue of my MTA wanting to expand out the right-hand side of the at to another domain.
Use Qmail.
what's Qmail?
Yes. Out. I'm not actually looked at Qmail.
It does that.
Is it another MPA?
Does what?
Like
It's more for way of life, I think.
yeah, that's shocking. Yeah, you can do it out of the box with Vmail, and you can log in as James at
The guy that wrote it is just like James. His favourite solution is the only thing you can use and everything else sucks.
If you set up the mail forwarding rule and you did it wrong,
Eventually,
Actually, if you set it up right, you can create a root. There is one of the, well, it depends on the MPA. Exim has a expand ancestors.
No, if I did the mail forwarding rules and I just redirected it to a domain that's up there and I kept a redirect going, Is there a dropout in the resolution? Like, does
Yes, so saying one of the configuration files will check the ancestors, and if it's already been through this rule and comes out with the same answer, it drops it.
So it's a tick loop.
Yeah.
Of course, this doesn't help you if we've got two machines that are
Yeah, so if you're bouncing between two machines, it can't really check. It may work, but
eventually.
well, it does look up on message IDs to be alright.
See now, it's received by header. There's more than 16 received by header, suppose. Must be a little answer.
Which was actually happening on the info Cyrus list a couple of weeks back.
Alright. Okay. Any other questions?
The best sort of summary I thought was something I drew from Mark. Drawing a big diagram of everything.
Draw a diagram.
Yeah, big picture.
Mark can use the diagram.
Is that not on the website yet?
Not
You
yet.
don't have a scanner. Oh, we do it. Do the scanner.
Yeah, we need you to rationalise them with deliverables.
So, in the centre of the thing, but LDAP, just doing all of our authentication. That's got, we can duplicate this how many times you want. So we can have lots and lots of LDAP servers all doing your thing. We've got Exim, which is actually handling our mail. It does SMTP, it does all of the mail stuff, and it's talking to the LDAP server directly to actually figure out where mail's going. Exim then passes the message on to Cyrus, which does all of the storing of the mail. Cyrus uses Sassel to look up at stuff, and that's like half of the battle with Cyrus. If you get Sassel sorted out, you're mostly there. And Sassel then can either directly use PAM, or it can actually use LDAP, or it can use PAM. Then PAM talks to LDAP. And then you've got like web scripts and things. They interact mostly with LDAP and create new mailboxes with Cyrus, etc. So you can have lots of these running, one on each machine. You have 3 machines, each running a couple of copies of Exim each. You can have a murder of Cyrus bot machines that are serving your mail. You can have a cluster of LDAP servers that are all authenticating everything, so this is basically the centre of it all. And you have a web farm of your web scripts.
Gaggle, I think.
Gaggle.
Gaggle web servers.
Gaggle web servers. Okay. Whatever you want to have.
Murder of Cyrus.
It happens
Cluster
Cyrus
of
is
LDAP.
important.
Cluster-
It's
cluster-
a word for cluster.
Yeah.
Some
Cluster of
patching
LDAP.
would be a tribe of
Good call.
One of the benefits and disadvantages of using PAM over directory with LDAP.
You need patches if you want to make Sassel talk directly to LDAP.
Alright, so
Whereas if you just say use PAM, it uses PAM.
Right.
The problem we did have was PAM wanted to use the LDAP libraries. The LDAP libraries then wanted to use Sassel, and the entire thing was banned. So it evolved entirely LDAP without
Early
Sassel.
versions of Sassel weren't re-entrant. So if you had 2 things wanting to call them at the same time, then you had problems.
Sassle's evil.
So if you've
Yeah,
got,
it's a really nice idea. Sassel is a way of combining EAM protocols and EAM authentication methods. So it's supposed to make everything nice and easy. Yeah.
Problem is,
Yes.
if you're going to do something like that, everyone has to use it.
A lot of people are using Sassel. Well, I have seen at least one project that said remove Sassel and then followed with some slightly unpolite comment about it.
The problem with it is it's not very well documented.
Yeah.
And
Nothing
can be a
else.
real
Sorry.
pain in the ass.
Yeah, CMU do have a problem with this, I think. Although it should be fixed. NASA just granted $23 million, I think, on for some task force and building trust systems.
Those are mostly for beer.
Even you couldn't drink much.
Now, does an exchange system store your contact book or your address book, whatever, on the exchange server?
Exchange runs off Active Directory, which is a glorified LDAP
Right.
server.
Okay. So in your scheme of things, would you store an address book, and if so, where in the hierarchy would you put it?
That's part of it.
Yeah, no. Which part of the LDAP schema? I mean, is it that you're
It uses the scheme that's already, the tree that's already there. You just add a schema to your mailbox or alias that has information about their real name, their phone number, whatever else attributes you want,
So
and then you just point whatever you want at it. You point.
So this is the thing you were saying. You point to Mozilla at it.
You put Mozilla or Outlook. You just point it straight at it and say go for it, and it just has a filter and says find everything that looks based on this email address or whatever. You just do a search and it searches through the entire LDAP tree.
So does it search through only the bit you're allowed to see, or does it search through everyone's?
Well, you have to configure that.
Depending on
Are you
But
talking about like a public folder for?
no, I'm talking about the private folder.
Can you have
email
secrets?
address.
Can you have emails that aren't available to other people to see in the address book?
Not at the moment.
You
Not
could
easily.
do though, easily, couldn't
Yeah.
you? Just limit them to your own domain.
So in Cyrus, in LDAP, how is authentication done on a per record basis? Or is it,
With respect to what?
well,
how do you authenticate against LDAP?
how
How
do
do you
you,
authenticate to LDAP?
how does LDAP decide whether or not I can write to Craig's?
You set ACLs on it. Generally, what you do is you say, if you are that distinguished name, you can write to it, or if you're the global admin user, you can write to it, or if you're the owner, you can write to it. And you can set other permissions, so I could arbitrarily say that the user Daniel Lawson can write to everything.
Right, but I can't give Craig access to my email.
Not easily, no.
box. No.
Your email box is different than Cyrus.
In that you
to
could
my email CM.
Not easily, no. You give me your password. Well, what else would you want to give them? I mean, if you gave them access to it, you could change your password.
Right, yeah. But don't do it.
The other way, I could
It's your
change the
decision.
password on everything he uses that password for.
Yes.
Well, this is true.
Are we talking about Cyrus ACLs here? I mean, you can give
No,
somebody
this is
an email
LDAP.
LDAP.
ACLs.
Oh,
yeah.
So Craig
they're
is
pretty cool.
they're pretty cool.
Yeah, they're all set on the server config as well, which is pretty nice. Whereas Cyrus, you can set ACL, so you can say, give Craig access to your inbox. You can do that quite easily.
But how?
You could delete my
I'd-
spam from it.
I'd have to actually actively go searching for it, wouldn't I? I mean, I wouldn't come up straight on.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Books.
If you pick up your mail and your email account is listed as being an admin user in Cyrus, you get your inbox, and then underneath it you get user.craig, user.something else, and just list them all. So you open up Mozilla and all these inboxes.
User.perry.prom.
Although alt namespace gets rid of that, doesn't it?
It doesn't get rid of that. It just
The way most, well, there aren't many IMAP servers out there actually. The way they usually do it is you have an inbox, and then you also have a drafts folder or whatever, depending on your client, and you can have other boxes you like.
Outlook creates a sent items, Mozilla creates a sent mail, Pine creates a .sent mail, June,
Exactly.
July, whatever.
The way IMAP does it is because it's folder based. Your top level folder is your inbox. So you end up with this rather annoying feature where, because you're used to every other mail, because you're used to the way Outlook does it, the way other mail servers do it, you're used to having everything at one level, but with Cyrus it wants to put them all inside here. Because they're all subfolders of your top level folder. Again, with version 2016 and above, you can turn a parameter on called alternate namespace, and that actually presents them. It presents them like this. They're still actually organised like that on the disk, but just when you log in, you see them like that. So Outlook works again.
Outlook worked anyway. I'll leave it.
Yeah, but
You have to tell it to set the limit, and same with Mozilla.
You
It
can just
works.
tell to root at the inbox.
Yeah,
That causes.
but yeah,
That's
if you're dealing with 10,000 users and you have to say, oh, yeah, can you all make this change, please?
Just email them the .reg and hope they use Outlook.
All right. That's good. That's good.
Evolution sees, looks like this.
Yes, that's
We'll
right.
display it like that.
Yeah. Evolution correctly understands it. Standing one we found that it actually does.
What about SMTP authentication? Or even, dare I say it, pop before SMTP?
Get out.
That's
Exodus problem.
that's Exum's problem.
Does it natively do it over LDAP, or?
Not natively, but you can configure it to do it. There's lots of patches out there for. You really need to get your.
Does Exodus authenticate in Japan?
Yes, you can do that.
You could probably just put a scheme in there last pop.
Then I hang
There you go.
server.
We've now got this
It's
video
the
and LDAP.
library which writes the authentication file.
It's a different place.
Just saying, exchange.
Exchange.
He's courier, so Cyrus is the messenger here.
That'd be quite neat. Sounds a bit site.
So we've got a test for this year.
Pop before
Can I add it
SMTP
and
would.
install it?
No, if you want to build DLI for it, tell me how on one machine. He said he did multiple machines. I've tried a couple of times. It's not one.
That's what.
No, you'd have to patch your pan.
Yeah, no, that's
What do I do?
To
I think everything
write
private.
a attribute into your schema.
But
Fast
after
access.
some Cyrus,
Then just
LDAP,
get SMTP.
all your web scripts, sets up and
RPM.
we were just discussing this.
But why don't you do it? Why don't you just make your own distro with this built in?
But
On a CD.
so next week,
That's non-chargeable time, sorry.
You have to account for your deliverables, don't you?
Yeah.
What's been delivered to you?
Alright. Anything else? So how many of you are going to go out and implement a hugely scalable MailServer now? Well, who wants to get mail running in their box at home?
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
Running the thickness thing.
Yeah.
You don't want to go,
I don't know how I got SSO.
help extra for the email problem.
If you install the Debian packages, the 2.1 Debian packages, and it just doesn't seem to work, try changing permissions on var SASL off. And,
There are 2.1 DB?
yes, there are 2.1
Understood.
understood.
Oh, stable, is it?
Yes, and don't spend a day wasting your time because the permissions are wrong. And
I tried to install those ones and it didn't work, so I had to roll back.
Yeah.
Luckily I had backed up.
It works great, except that permission problem.
But these compile fine, so I was quite suffering.
The one that got me was the
I emailed
LDAP trying to say so. And what you just see is that, Cyrus 611 died. No reason given.
Well, that was random.
Just says, signal to death by 11.
11 what?
The Cyrus maintainer.
The program did.
It's the big same for one problem.
Even bugs, I guess.
So I thought that work was in on that
But you probably emailed the other
Okay.
If you got any more questions, feel free to ask.
Excellent.
On camera. Oh,
Alongside each other.
Cold grease.
Can you fire up GQ or whatever it was so we can have a picture for your that trick? Go passwords.
Actually, grub. Now we want to strip these for the camera.
about half a cup of